Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Now, stand back for your own safety.
Steve, what's up?
Congrats on the win.
Thanks, Steve. Where Paulie at?
Here we go.
I'm checking out. I will respond to you, but I'm done for the week. I'm done.
Steve is my favorite part of the show. How's that?
I like that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Check for sound.
Pleasure to be on there talking with Paulie, man. He's a good dude.
I'm an idiot. I'll just shut up and let you talk. I was trying to help.
And shout out to Tupac.
3, 2, 1, and
This is Orange Nation.
Well, hello, Paulie and Steve.
With Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Check the Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us. No Paulie Sibilia today. He's on the road down in Durham, North Carolina. Stephen Fonte, Tim Leonard with you up until 2 o'clock. It is Monday, which means Mike McAllister will join us in his normal 12:30 slot. Plus, we want to hear from you at 315-437-7644. Back-to-back wins at home for the Orange, both in dramatic fashion. One in double overtime, one just a few seconds before the buzzer. And now they head down to Duke tonight to take on the best team in this conference. We'll get to the Duke game here in a second, Tim, but I guess we'll open with your thoughts on what was a second straight thrilling win for this team inside the Dome. For at least 1 weekend, anyway.
Yeah.
Seems like Orange Nation's been able to enjoy some basketball.
Yeah, how about just in general a great sports weekend?
Yeah.
I called two very exciting, very good wins for Syracuse men's lacrosse and women's basketball yesterday. Got a nice W over Clemson, so good to be on here on a Monday, Steve, and have a little bit of positivity for a change. And obviously, tonight at 7 p.m., that might come to a crashing halt, considering it is Duke, and we can get into that. But I did think that the Cal game in particular, and really just this week, showcased how much Syracuse is still fighting. And to come back against SMU like that, and the way that Coach Autry made some different decisions and different lineup moves than what we've seen. And who would have thought at the start of the year, J.J. Starling will be on the bench for the final 17 minutes of a big win at home. And that would be a coach's decision. And it's not easy for Coach Autry to do that, I'm sure. And, maybe some people would say, well, he should have done that sooner, yada, yada, and maybe they'd still have a chance. But good to see them push the right buttons and really just see Nate Kings continue to play well is exciting for sure.
Yeah, he was great. And I tell you what, Kyan and Tyler Bepsy off the bench, they really changed the complexion of that game. I mean, it was a double-digit game in the second half and looked like it was going to go like so many of the other games before them had gone. And, Kyan came in and provided some really good minutes, and so did Tyler Betsy. And then instead of going back to his starters to close the game out, he went with the hot hands, plural, in Betsy and Kyan, and that was really the difference in the game. I think that we do need to give Red some credit here.
Yeah.
And you did there a little bit, and we've been critical, and everybody's been critical of him. It's been a tough season. It's been a tough 3 years, but if you're going to be critical, you also have to give him credit when he makes the right moves. And in this game, I thought he pulled the right strings. And you mentioned the lineup change, between going zone, between, getting their big guy in foul trouble, getting him out of the game so they could go with the smaller lineup, calling timeout, drawing up the play that led to the game-winning basket, and not forcing the ball to Donnie, but going with the best matchup, which was Nate Kings, and to get downhill against Boopy. And again, they had talked about it. They literally had practiced that play the day before, and talked about it the day before, and then for it to come down to, all right, we need a basket, and to go back to something they had worked on literally the day before at practice, Nate going one-on-one with Boopy and getting to the basket and scoring. I do think he deserves some credit. Now, let's just leave it at that. I know there's going to be people that come at us and say, why are you defending him? And, he shouldn't be back. I'm just saying, for this weekend, for that game, he deserves credit. He pulled the right strings. He pushed the right buttons, whatever analogy you want to use. and the team has responded. And at the very least, even if he's losing his job at the end of this year, he's going out fighting, and the team's going out fighting. And at this, based on where they were, that's all you can ask is for him to keep coaching, for the players to keep playing, and it's worked in back-to-back games. And they beat, outside of Tennessee, those are their two best wins this year. Two teams that are bubble teams,
quad two.
Yeah, I mean those were two solid wins at home, and again, I think he deserves some credit.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I know that's not going to go over great probably with the section of the fan base that is listening right now, but specifically on Cayenne and his minutes at the end of the game and sticking with him, it feels like now some people are jumping down Red's throat more for the Virginia DNP. And I would say that's coaching to put him on the bench for that game. He really was not playing well in the 5-6 games leading into Virginia. He hasn't shown a lot of signs of running the offense and being a positive influence when he's out there. And I think this particular game, and what we got to keep in mind here is the opponent and the matchups that are at play in each individual game. This game, it's a zone, a funky zone, a 1-3-1 type of zone from SMU where the corner was wide open. And they needed shooters out there. And J.J. Starling is not a shooter right now at this point in his career. He's not a guy that is very aggressive from three-point range, and he's not very effective from three-point range. So they put in Tyler Betsy, they put in Cayenne, they have Nate Kings out there in the corner, and it felt like the offense finally started to hit some threes. They were 7 for 17 in the second half from three-point range. So getting your shooting lineup out there was the way to go in this particular game. Does that mean that J.J. Starling shouldn't start tonight against Duke? Does that mean that we need to rethink everything when it comes to Starling versus Cayenne? I don't think so, but obviously it was good to see Cayenne play well after the coach's decision to bench him.
Right, and you're absolutely right. They needed shooters. They got back into the game. The conventional wisdom, though, a lot of coaches make the mistake of, and I think Red's been guilty of this at times, we've talked about his lineups and his combinations and so on and so forth. The temptation is to go back to your starters down the stretch and to go to your crunch time lineup. And he didn't. He went with the guys who got him back into the game. And, he left his senior leader on the bench, in favor of Cayenne, who made some big plays. I see somebody in the chat brought up, Cuse in the house brings up sitting Cayenne for the Virginia game. Maybe it woke him up. I tell you what, I give credit to Red for pulling the trigger and sitting him, knowing he was going to catch heat for it. I give credit to Cayenne for responding the way that he did. And we talked with Cayenne after the game, and he said, listen, I got rid of Instagram. I got rid of Twitter. I got rid of social media. I stayed off it. I was just focused on, getting in the gym. He's like, I lifted in the morning. I went to practice. I come back on my own, get up shots. I've been laser focused. And I think you saw that. And you saw the coach do the right thing. You saw the player do the right thing. And I don't want to overstate it, but we kind of lose sight of this sometimes in the transfer portal era and the NIL era of if things don't go right for a player, it's like, fine, whatever, dude, I'm out. You look at what's going on in Kansas and Darren Peterson. I don't really know the dynamic of the situation there. I don't cover them, but it almost feels like the player thinks he's more important than the coach. And that
certainly looks that way.
That's never a good thing, right? And credit to Cayenne for being humble enough to take the benching for what it was. He said they've had conversations, a lot of conversations, as he put it, in the last week and a half. And whatever was said, he took it to heart. And instead of pouting or getting mad or do you know who my dad is or I'm just going to transfer, and who knows what the future holds, but he responded in the moment. And I think that both coach and player deserve a little bit of a credit in this situation because that's the way it's supposed to go, right? Like that's what coaching is. That's what being a player is and being accountable. And, you hear Fran Brown talk all the time about Dart philosophy and, being detailed and accountable and relentless and tough. And that's what Cayenne showed. And so, again, it is just one game, but I love the way Cayenne responded to what's happened the last couple of weeks.
All right, now I'm going to bring up something that I think is kind of a downside to what we've seen in the last couple of weeks in terms of Red and coaching. So we'll be fair and balanced here. We're praising them a little bit, but to be critical a little bit, the way we've seen Nate Kings play in the last 5 games, I think it's fair to say they should have realized sooner that Nate King should be more of a focal point of this offense. And I did a big deep dive this morning on just his stats, and his shot attempts in particular have really gone up in the last 5 games. So first 21 games of the season, Nate Kings was averaging 8 field goal attempts per game. He was shooting about 5 threes per game. So only 3 2-point attempts per game in the first 21 games of the season. He was averaging 10 points per game. Last 5 games, 12 field goal attempts per game, shooting 54%, 7 threes per game, shooting 40%. He's averaging 18 points per game in the last 5. When you really look at his numbers, and specifically the thing that jumps out is his 2-point field goal percentage. He's shooting 66% from 2-point range this year. That's the best mark on the team. That's better than even William Kyle, who's a big that attempts a lot of dunks and layups. JJ's 50% from 2-point range. Nathan George, 49%. Kyan Anthony, 52%. That's the thing to me that if they had maybe realized Nate Kings could be more of the downhill driver 10 games ago, 15 games ago, would things look differently? And give credit to them for developing Nate Kings too, because I don't think anyone saw this coming when they added him in the transfer portal. So it's almost like because they've done a good job with him, now we're able to pick at maybe they could have realized it earlier. But I do think that's a fair critique right now.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've had Adrian Autry on every week on our show, and I don't remember exactly which conversation it was, but I would say about a month ago or so, he talked about the fact that Nate has been able to get to the basket more than they were expecting. I think that part of his game did catch him off guard and the coaches off guard to some degree. He didn't showcase it maybe in his last stop. You're right. Maybe they were slow to come around to that, but you threw out the numbers. The numbers don't lie, and they're not a coincidence because he's getting to the basket. It's not like he's settling for mid-range shots. He's doing exactly what you look at in the NBA, what scouts want in the NBA, which is make threes or get to the basket. The mid-range game is not analytically favorable, right, in the sport of basketball, the way that a lot of the analytics look at it. And Nate Kings does a really nice job getting to the basket. And with the game on the line, again, you've got Donnie Freeman at your disposal, and he went with the better matchup in this game. And Nate Kings, to his credit, went out and made a play. Did exactly what he was supposed to do. He talked about afterwards, I have confidence I can get to the basket against anyone. Boopy Miller's known as a strong defender, even though he's shorter in stature. He's a good defender. He's strong. And, Nate kind of bullied him to the basket and did exactly what he had to do, and they win the game because of it. And I'm with you. Maybe the coaching staff, the coaching staff probably should have come around a little bit sooner on Nate Kings being able to get to the basket. But now that they've discovered this, we keep talking about how they need to do something different. They have to find something these last few games going into the ACC tournament. I don't think they're going to win tonight. I don't think they're going to beat Louisville. I don't think they're going to get back on the bubble. Joe Lenardi said if they win tonight, they'll be at least a team to watch when it comes to the bubble. I don't think any of that's happening. It is good to see them playing better basketball right now, though, and maybe they have found a little something with Nate Kings and with the offense. Offense certainly has looked better the last couple of games. Now, some of that might be the opponents they're going up against, but hopefully they have found something that they could take down to Charlotte with them.
Yeah, I mean, if the offense looks good tonight, then that would be a major improvement. No one has looked good against Duke's defense, and we'll get into the Duke numbers as we continue with the show, I'm sure. Let's go to Ryan in Virginia leading us off today. What's up, Ryan?
Tim Leonard, how are you, sir? I'm seeing you're getting some love in the chat there to give a microphone to some of those folks. It says Tim is an asset to Q Sports Talk. Hashtag extend Tim. Hashtag Tim touches rim. So you're getting a lot of love out there, Tim.
Well, I'm sure Steve is just happy. You said you were pleasantly surprised that it wasn't Pauly.
I forgot there was no Pauly today, and I walked in, and I was like, oh, that's right. I've got Tim today.
Especially playing Duke, because I'm sure Pauly would have brought up Danny Hurley, Bobby Hurley, and the connection already.
Sure, no doubt.
Yeah, well, Pauly's probably on that I-81 corridor somewhere right now as we speak. Yeah, and I wanted to shout out Pauly for his comment or his question to Mr. Wildhack last week about what constitutes meaningful games in March. That was one of the things I wanted to mention. But before I get to that and a few other of my takes, I just had a quick question. You guys mentioned that situation at Kansas. Could you give the Spark Notes, because I haven't seen that headline yet?
I mean, the Spark Notes are that he's in and out of the lineup. He was injured at the beginning of the season. Seemed like he was good enough to come back if you read the reports, and then he stayed out several games, and his team wanted him to be 100% healthy before he came back. And then the other night, who were they playing the other night?
Someone good. I can't remember.
I can't remember who the opponent was, but it was Arizona.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it was Arizona,
number one,
and he wasn't even listed on the injury report. And then all of a sudden, within the hour before tip-off, he's like, I'm not playing. I'm sick. And it seems like he kind of comes and goes as he pleases. And if you believe the reports, apparently Bill Self before the Arizona game said, "Listen, if you're gonna play tonight, you got to stop. Half. You could fill in the blanks there. You gotta go full speed." And he was like, "Nah, I'm not playing tonight."
It's like load management. I mean,
right. That's
the
what
joke
it feels
is
like.
DN Peterson right now is what the Kansas fans keep saying.
And generally, he's been sitting out the bigger games. He sat out the Arizona game. He sat out beginning of the season when they were in Vegas, which again, I think he was legitimately hurt, but then he stayed, he kept himself out of several other games that it sounded like he could have played in, and it just sounds like he's putting himself above the team at the moment, which is never a good thing.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. I think that's going to continue to happen. I mean, when you're getting paid as much as these guys are getting paid, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million a year, sadly, I think that's going to be the trend. They're going to see themselves as, worth more than sometimes their coach. But yeah, I credit a lot of the coaches now for putting their foot down. And I'm thinking of the situation last year with Tennessee football, and they said, okay, you want to leave, go ahead and leave. And then that quarterback didn't exactly pan out where he went. Regarding the bubble, I was looking at Cuse's schedule. I would agree with everything you just said, Steve. I think their magic number would be 21 wins. I think that would be 6 more total. So I don't necessarily think they can play. I don't know. We'll see. But the other thing that's interesting, we talked about it last week with the net. They could lose tonight and jump significantly in the net, correct? If they lose by, let's say they lost by 5 points, wouldn't they, in theory, jump up at least 5 spots in the net?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, the net is so confusing. They dropped a spot after one of their best wins of the year against SMU. They went from 68 to 69. So a lot of it is the other games that are going on around you. And yeah, margin of defeat matters a lot. So certainly if they lose by 5, that's exceeding expectations tonight. I would imagine they'd bump up a little bit, but it's hard to make sense of the net.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on what your definition of significantly is. I don't think 5 spots is significant. If they win this game, then I think they'll make a significant jump. If they lose, they could still move up a little. I don't know if it'll be a significant move up, though, Ryan.
Well, that'll be the last thing that I say. You can win a game against a team who's SMU was top 35 in the net, and then you can drop a spot after beating a team, and it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I think there needs to be more media people, more coaches, ideally the coaches, like, why are we even using this as selection criteria? Like, what more do you need? You beat a team who's better than you, as they did, and you drop a spot. So in this advanced, whatever it is, analytical age, I just hope that the selection committee is not using that net as highly as maybe just some common sense things. So that's all I got, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
I will say, Steve, and I appreciate Ryan checking in, on the net, when I've talked to women's basketball coaches around the ACC, and for what I understand, it's similar enough to the formula for the men's basketball game. The biggest gripe is that if you beat a team you're supposed to beat by 30, that helps you more than just winning a significant game, like beating SMU in a game that you're maybe supposed to lose by a little bit. So, for example, SU women's basketball hasn't really jumped much when they've won games over like Clemson or SMU or Virginia on the road as a quad 1 win. They jumped up a little bit. They beat BC by 40. They jumped 2 spots. So there's too much on blowing teams out that are really bad.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing that with how teams are scheduling too, right? I mean, we're seeing that shift toward, blow out your non-conference opponents by 40 every game and, build up your net that way. So there's definitely ways to manipulate the formula, and teams are figuring it out. Let's get one more phone call in this segment, then we'll take our first break. Jake in Iowa up next. Jake, what's going on?
Guys, I'll be real quick. Thanks for taking my call. I want to piggyback off what you were saying. Let's not be Autry defenders, but give him credit where it's due. He finally stuck with the hot guy for the first time in 3 years. He finally learned something in 3 years. Just go back to the Cal game. They're on an 8-0 run in the first half, and what does he do? Takes out 4 of the 5 guys that just got using momentum. So finally he learned something, and I'll just leave it with this because I'm getting all froggy. A few years ago, I think Duke had a pretty good freshman. He was the number 1 pick. His name was Zion. What did we do when we went down there? We beat him. So there's no reason we can't do it again. Let's keep hope alive. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, Jake. Appreciate checking in. It's a yes. I mean, upsets happen, and it's why you play the games. I have a hard time finding a path to success tonight against this Duke team, but again, upsets happen in the sport in any sport. Tim,
Yeah.
That's why they play.
Hopefully Elijah Hughes can make a 75-footer, and I don't see it happening either. But I mean, I see on Ken Palm there's a 4% chance that Syracuse wins tonight. That feels about right to me. But we'll see.
They're dominant. I mean, they are. They're really, really good. And but Syracuse has backed itself into a corner to the point where this feels like a game that they absolutely have to have, and a game that I don't know if this team is capable of winning. But at least they have the opportunity, right? I mean, you and I are here to talk about the game realistically. I don't think they have a realistic shot to win. But as players, as competitors, the players and coaches, they got to go out tonight and they got to give it their best shot, knowing that their season is on the line. Like, if they have any chance at all in that large, this is one you have to have. I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah. Go out with nothing to lose, though. I mean, It does feel like the last couple games they've been playing a little freer, and maybe that's because they know even if they win this game, it doesn't put them on the bubble, or there's not a ton at stake right now.
Right. If they lose it, nothing changes. They're still out. If you win it, you might, like you said, you might as well go out and just play loose.
And by the way, Cal and SMU were right on the bubble, or maybe not SMU, but those games really mattered to them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the other way around.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, SMU is certainly closer to the bubble now after losing that game. So we'll see if either or both get in. That was our opening drive, brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. We'll take our first time out. We got Mike McAllister coming up in about 10 minutes. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Yeah, Jake in Iowa, Steve, had the take post-game that Adrian Autry is holding Donnie Freeman back from being Derek Coleman.
Media.
That was one of the wilder ones I've heard all year. Did I get my Valentine's cookie with your initials on it Saturday? I did not get any such cookie. Women's team did play very well yesterday. Sophie was incredible. Yeah, I mean, they're probably not going to land any big recruits given how murky the coaching situation is, guys. But that doesn't mean... Honestly, the big benefit now is this is the positive of having the transfer portal. You can bring in a new coach and flip it pretty strong. Flip it pretty well. I did vote for her, Jen, to be ACC Player of the Week. So I did my part. I would hope that Nate King stays. I saw a comment earlier like, what's it matter? Nate King's is gone next year. I mean, he should be able to hopefully get that extra year. And I would imagine Nate Kings would want to make a lot of money and come back to school versus test the waters. I don't think he's at that level yet. Well, Freebird, that would be like something you're maybe considering if you're looking at a mid-major coach. Like, would Brian Hodgson in South Florida have a couple guards or a couple players that have a couple years of eligibility left, or someone that he could bring over that would know his system? I don't think you make the decision based on that, of course, but I think it's something you consider. We've seen examples of that in a positive way where someone kind of jump starts their system in the next program. Like Will Wade and Quadir Copeland. Yeah, I guess that's true. Whatever happened to Dakota LaFew? Is he still playing? Cuddle Few had, man, he was kind of lame at Georgia. 9 points. Only started 5 games. 25 minutes. Maybe he wasn't the savior after all. I don't think Georgia was anything special.
He's out of eligibility. He's 24 now.
What's going on in the YouTube chat? YouTube chat wants to know, what are the Syracuse's keys to having a chance at a win tonight? Play by far their best game of the season. Excel at everything. No, I don't know.
I think, we saw a few years ago, remember when Syracuse packed in that zone and Duke went 2 of 16 from 3 or whatever? I think you got to hope that, Duke's got to help you out a little bit tonight. Teams have off nights. I think you got to hope that they have an off night, and you've got to play well. But
be good to see. I mean, I think Nathan George has been playing a lot better lately, obviously. And I wonder if it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. Like, he's just sort of playing freer because there's not as much pressure on each individual game. Or I shouldn't. Obviously, there's still a lot of pressure, but it'd be good to see them, like the guards, play really well. Or they need George to play well, it feels like, to win. And he has been playing better.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
Red Hot Chili Peppers are Artist of the Day, Steve. I've done it. I have successfully pulled the Artist of the Day. Paulie texted me like 30 minutes before the show, and he didn't even say anything but just the band, Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I was proud to say I have successfully done it. Good. I didn't forget about it this time. We're not doing the bumps, and I actually enjoy Red Hot Chili Peppers, so maybe that's why I did it.
Paulie's contribution to the show today, reminding us of the Artist of the Day. Well done, Paulie.
He did say that he will be back tomorrow. He'll find a way to be on the show if they win.
Oh, okay.
He's only doing it if they win. If not, it'll be Mario and you. So
must be nice to be the boss and be able to fire people and decide if he's on the show. Well, if they win, I'll come on. So we probably will not be seeing Paulie tomorrow. I think there's a good chance we will not see Paulie. But yes, Mario will be in tomorrow, and then Paulie again supposed to be back on Wednesday. As you look at where this team is right now, and again, we don't expect them to win tonight. We don't expect them to beat Louisville, but it does feel like they are playing better basketball. And I don't think that's being a prisoner in the moment of the last 2 games. I think they're playing better basketball. At least this past week they did. Do you think they are capable, outside of playing like Duke or Louisville in Charlotte, do you think they are capable of making a little bit of noise?
Yes, they're capable. It's a tough one to answer. The thing that I'll say is I feel that it was a good matchup, SMU, for them, because SMU is a offensive-minded team. If you look at their schedule, I broke it down this morning. It's pretty interesting. The 6 worst ACC defenses they played, so they're 6 and 7 in conference. Their 6 wins are against the 6 worst-rated defenses they played so far on KenPom. And Cal at 79 is the best defense they have won against so far this year. The 7 best ACC defenses they played, and keep in mind, Boston College was the worst loss of the season, arguably, right there, of course, with Hofstra. BC had a top 60 defense and still has a top 60 defense. So I made this point on the postgame show. I think it bears repeating that they are just going to look better against an offensive-minded team. Obviously, Duke is probably the best defense they've played all year, and that includes the 2 teams that are in the nightcap of the big Monday tonight. It's number 3 Houston against number 5 Iowa State. Those are tremendous teams, of course, and we know Syracuse is right there with Houston, so maybe you could point to that as a positive. But it feels like they drew a good matchup against SMU. I don't know if they're going to score more than 55, 60 points tonight. And I'm just trying to say that now because I think the reaction will be, oh, the offense is stagnant. It looks terrible. They don't run plays. And that's what we say when they go up against really, really good defenses. And we got to keep in mind the opponent with some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's tougher to get into your stuff when you're going up against a good defense, obviously. And, we'll see how they handle it tonight. We did see them, to your point, they're more comfortable in the up-tempo style game. We saw them beat Florida State, and then, I don't think it's a coincidence they played well against Cal and SMU, to your point. What's another thing they did in a lot of those games? It's sharing the basketball. We saw it against Notre Dame as well recently. They shared the basketball. Now, some of it, yes, absolutely has to do with the opponent. Hopefully they can use what this momentum that they have gained through the last week and hopefully apply it to tonight and continue to share the basketball and continue to get looks. Now they got to knock them down and they got to hope Duke doesn't play well. But I think that, offensively, they certainly look better the last couple of games. And, yes, the opponent had something to do with it. But not everything to do with it,
Yeah, they have played better, and I think we should give them some credit for it. But I guess here's a way to phrase it before we get to Mike. If they played the same exact level they played against SMU on Saturday, tonight against Duke, they maybe lose by 15, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like they played incredibly better to the point where they're going to upset Duke.
Right. I mean, let's not forget they were down 12 midway through the second half. They looked like it was over and they got hot and they, how do you come back in games? You get stops at one end, you finish it off with a rebound and you go down and you score at the other. And they did that consistently. And, they got their big guy in foul trouble, which was a key piece to that victory because it allowed Syracuse to go to that smaller lineup. It allowed Red to stick with that smaller lineup late in the game because they didn't have to worry about, a 7-2 center who eats up space and was unstoppable down low. They could get away with not playing William Kyle down the stretch of that game, and it worked out. Obviously, you're not necessarily going to have that luxury tonight. 315-437-7644. We'll take a timeout here. We've got Mike McAllister set to join us on the other side, and then phone lines open the rest of the way. After that, we're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Evan Canty and Michelle.
I don't think we're talking like they're playing Akron and DePaul. I think we're giving them credit, but also acknowledging that all I'm saying is if SMU was 15th in defense and 91st in offense, like the reverse of what they were, I think that wouldn't have been as beneficial for them. But they were two good wins.
By owner Don Abernathy today. Now, Don, why did you name the company?
Yeah, it looks like the spread is anywhere from 19.5 to 21.5.
I mean, SMU's net ranking is much better, D North, but I think they're 1 point favorites, 1.5 point favorites. So it was a good win, but I just feel like we have to also understand, to me, Syracuse isn't playing drastically different every game. They're just, some games match up better than others, and some games they play slightly better.
Yes, they got to get into their offense better, though, against better teams.
Yes.
So yes, they almost allow the matchups to dictate what kind of offense they play, which can't be the case. You can't go into North Carolina and just completely get taken out of your offense against a team that isn't even that good defensively. They have to be able to run their stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know what you're saying. You're saying they don't want to play drastically differently, but they kind of do end up playing drastically differently because of because of the opponent.
They have their offense is a weakness against good defenses, obviously, and it's more of it looks worse. There shouldn't be as much of a drop off from good defense to bad defense is what we're seeing.
Correct.
But I think we also have to keep in mind, just because they played well against SMU offensively doesn't mean they've they're going to go out there and score. Like, if they get to 60 tonight against Duke, that would probably be over what they're projecting. I mean, I think KenPom has them at 62,
Yeah. Yeah, what's the over-under?
7 of the last 9 teams Duke has held under 60 points. So,
yeah.
I mean, they're playing really, really good defense. Yeah, I think you're right about the intensity. I think we're in agreement here, D North. I'm not saying like don't take anything away from the game. I think it's fair to say they've looked better the last 2 games, but if you were thinking going into the SMU game they're going to lose to Duke by 20, I don't think you now should be thinking they're going to beat Duke or be right in this game.
Yeah, and Dan, I would say not only do you have to defend the 3 well, you've got to finish the possession with a rebound, and that, as we all know, that's been an issue for Syracuse at times this year. Is they give up too many offensive rebounds.
I agree with that.
If they miss, you gotta finish it with a board. Don't give them a lot of second chance opportunities.
I don't think switching everything is the way I would defend Syracuse and ball screens. We won't be calling Lee next segment. The stock market's closed.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Red Hot Chili Peppers are artists of the day. Not sure why. I probably could have researched that, but this is By the Way. They've got a lot of major hits. When I went through, I was kind of surprised how many I knew.
It's par for the course on this show. Anytime I ask Paulie why they're the artist of the day, he never knows, so it's fine. It fits right in with this show. So
doing my Paulie impersonation.
You probably do know the reason. You're just not just to fit in with the show. You're like, I don't know what the reason is.
Yeah.
Well played. Let's go to our guest line. It's 12:30 on a Monday, a few minutes after 12:30 on a Monday, which means it's time for Mike McAllister to share his thoughts on the week that was SU athletics. And Mike, let's start with this SMU game. I mean, what stood out to you the most from this win over the Mustangs on Saturday?
The fact that it felt like it was about to get away from them on several occasions, and then they continued to battle back and figured out a way to win. It was kind of almost the opposite of the Cal game, right? It felt like Syracuse was in control the majority of that game, and then, kind of late in the game, Cal makes a run at it, and we end up in double overtime. This was a game where it felt like SMU was kind of in control for a vast majority of it, and yet they kept fighting and figured out a way to win. I thought the crowd was really good, but at least, from how it sounded on television. And it was, nice to see them get a win and celebrate and against, 2 wins in a row against good teams that are, fighting for NCAA tournament spot. And I think it was a good thing to get some positivity around the program, but at the same time is frustrating when you see them play well against good teams and knowing that they're a couple of free throws and maybe a defensive stop away from, being solidly in the tournament right now.
Obviously, Mike, the big lineup change, one of them was Kyan Anthony playing the last 17 minutes of the game, J.J. Starling sitting for the last 17 minutes. Some of that, I'm sure, initially was because SMU was throwing out that zone. Knowing what we saw from Kyan in the last game, knowing what we've seen from JJ throughout the year, how would you handle the minutes? Would you change things dramatically or a little bit after what you saw in this game against SMU between the minutes of Kyan and JJ?
I wouldn't change too much based off of one performance, but if the trend continues this way, then I think you have to start looking at that and giving Kyan some more minutes. But, I think it's probably going to be matchup dependent too, right? This was a good matchup for him in that not only were they throwing zone at Syracuse, but SMU is not a great defensive team, especially off of pick and roll, which is what Syracuse likes to do offensively. So the fact that he was able to stretch the defense a little bit, was making shots, and for whatever reason, JJ just didn't quite seem to be on as he had in the previous few games. So, sometimes I think that can happen as a one-off situation as far as Kyan significantly outplaying JJ. But if this team is going to continue to win games and try to make things interesting, I don't think that's your recipe. I think your recipe is JJ playing well.
Yeah, I think this is a JJ game tonight, probably, given the matchup and given how well Duke defends. He's going to have to get to the basket tonight, so I think we're going to get a healthy dose of JJ in this game tonight. Tim brought up the point earlier, Mike, about Nate Kings and said that, the coaching staff probably should have come around a little bit sooner to the fact that he's so good off the bounce and could get to the basket, and I would agree with that. I guess, can you speak to Nate Kings' development and growth and progression as a player? We thought they were just getting a three-point shooter, like Chris Bell 2.0, but he's been much more than that, and he's shown the ability to get to the basket and won the game by getting to the basket.
Yeah, I thought I saw some flashes of that early in the season where they were giving him the ball and letting him take guys off the dribble. And then I was most impressed early on with his defensive effort, especially as a perimeter defender. So I came away from the first, handful of games or so this season saying, man, his three-point shooting at that point wasn't quite there yet. It took him a little bit to kind of get into rhythm, and part of that may be the dome and those sight lines and all that. But, it took him a little while to get a shot going. But while his shot wasn't going, the difference between him and what a Chris Bell gave you is that he was impacting the game in other ways. He could take guys off the dribble. He could be a really good perimeter defender. And yet when Chris Bell wasn't making shots, he didn't impact the game in the same way. So I think that's where you got an upgrade over last year, and we saw it come to fruition against SMU where he won that game and was one of several players that seemed to be frustrating Boopy Miller as well.
Going back to the Virginia game, Mike, this has been 3 straight nice games for Nathan George in a row. And obviously you're hitting on some of the key points with SMU and their ball screen defense, and maybe that was a little bit easier for Nathan George to have a good game, but Virginia's got a really good defense. He scored against them. He's been better in the turnover category of late. How much do you think Nathan George is improving and playing to the caliber that we thought he might be when Syracuse got him, and how much of it is just the opponents and maybe we're overreacting to just 3 games of him playing nicely?
It's probably a little bit of everything, right? There's some development there in him. And here's the other thing, right? When you have as much turnover on a roster as is typical across the sport year in and year out, it takes some guys a longer period of time to adjust to their new environment, whether it's the venue, whether it's, going to class, how far away or close you are to home, your teammates, whatever the case is. Whenever you change schools, there's things to adjust to. So it takes different people, different lengths of time to adjust to that. Some it's not a big deal, and they kind of just assimilate right in right away. Some it takes a little bit of time. And so if Nate George is one of those, if Nate Kings is one of those guys who it takes a little bit of time before he gets fully comfortable, he started to get there, then, we see the results of that on the floor. So gone are the days where, teams have 2 to 3 to 4 years to gel together and play together and learn how to play together, get comfortable with being at college, develop, and all that. That's all gone. Now it's a year-to-year thing, and the rosters turn over so much that the time that you have to develop all of that is extremely accelerated. And unfortunately, sometimes, it takes half a season or 2/3 of a season before you get there.
Before we get into Duke tonight, it is our first chance to talk to you since the John Wildhack news that he announced that he will retire at the end of the academic year. Herm Frazier honored before the game on Saturday that he's stepping down as well. We know the Chancellor's moving on. Just your thoughts on the whole situation right now within the athletic department.
I don't think any of those moves individually are all that surprising, but the timing of it with where we are with the basketball program mainly raised a lot of questions for me as far as if they make the determination that they need to move on and look for a new head coach, who's making that decision? Are they letting John Wildhack make that decision before he exits? And I could understand some people saying, well, wouldn't you want the new AD to make that decision? At the same time, if he makes that decision and it doesn't work, the new AD doesn't get blamed for it. So do they look at Syracuse as a more attractive option because they've got a few years before they have to make one of those decisions? That's something to be considered. But I also think John Wildhack has gotten a lot of blame for a lot of things, and I think if you look back on his 10 years at Syracuse, yes, the football program had its shares of ups and downs. The basketball program, we understand where that is, but he did make the Fran Brown hire, which everyone seems to be pretty positive about, did make the Gary Gate hire, was responsible for some fundraising on some pretty significant projects, including dome renovations. And, all of those things I think need to be part of the resume, so to speak, when you take a step back and look at his time at Syracuse.
Mike McAllister is with us, Syracuse on 24/7 Sports. He's with us every Monday around this time as we react to all of the Syracuse sports news. And let's talk about the Duke game, Mike. What do you think stands out in this matchup? And I guess what are you expecting tonight, knowing that Syracuse has been playing better of late, but Duke is also obviously one of the best teams in the country?
They are one of the best teams in the country. I feel like if this game was here, I'd give them kind of a fighter's chance, a puncher's chance at it. But the fact that it's there, they're playing as well as they are, they're in the mix for a 1 seed. I don't see them having an off game at Cameron. So, this is a game that I'm kind of similar to the North Carolina game. I'm kind of going in just saying if they can keep this game somewhat respectable, make it in doubt a little bit into the second half, then I feel like that's I guess moral victory for lack of a better word, but that's at least a positive showing. Obviously where you are in terms of your record and your standings and everything else, if you really want to get back into the NCAA tournament conversation, you probably need to win either this game or Louisville, if not both. But if you can figure out a way to pull this one off, then I think given the way that the schedule is laid out the rest of the year, you've still got multiple quad one opportunities with North Carolina, Louisville, and Wake Forest is kind of right on that borderline there. You've got an opportunity to get enough quad one wins that if you end the regular season on a pretty good streak and then you go win a couple of games in the ACC tournament, maybe you at least give the committee something to look at if your net can get high enough, and then you can, start talking about, well, for this many of their losses, they didn't have Donnie and, all of those things. But that's kind of where I'm at, is realistically try to keep the game competitive and see if you can hang in there. But if you're just taking a step back and looking at where Syracuse is in the season, it feels like a game that they probably have to give themselves a reasonable shot at the NCAA tournament.
Mike, the question just popped up in the chat about recruiting of high school talent and high school seniors. Yeah. Obviously, nobody from the high school level is committed to Syracuse. We know that there's a lot of uncertainty with the coaching staff right now. Can you bring us up to date on the latest as it pertains to high school recruiting, not transfer portal stuff?
Yeah, there's no one that they're significantly in on in the 2026 recruiting class that you feel like they've got a reasonable shot with. We know that Jordan Smith recently picked Arkansas. Syracuse was involved with him. He had been on campus a few times and, had a relationship with Kyan Anthony and those types of things. But I think the fact that you do have kind of the question marks with the coaching staff and where they are moving forward, that has significantly impacted their ability, to land guys. I mean, they've been involved with guys, Vaughn Carvalho and, some other guys in the 2026 class. Haven't gotten anyone yet, obviously, but I think the fact that the coaching staff situation is what it is has significantly impacted that. I mean, you're not going to get a high-level 5-star guard like Smith when you've got question marks around who's going to be your head coach next year. So that's just kind of is what it is, and the nature of the beast when you're in this situation. But I think ultimately, if they either make the tournament and decide they're sticking with red for the foreseeable future, or if they decide to go in another direction, then that from that point on, with either a new coach or some solid feelings about the future under red, then you feel like that should pick up for 2027. But I think if you do have a new coach, it's not like you're going to just suddenly go out and grab a couple of guys. Usually most of those guys are gone by then. So you look to probably filling out the roster with transfer portal guys. So it might mean a busier transfer portal offseason for Syracuse potentially.
Well, we got you, Mike. Men's lacrosse back to number 1 in the rankings for the first time since right before COVID. Got the huge victory over Maryland, and women's basketball had a great win yesterday as well. What stood out to you from watching both of those wins this weekend?
Well, from a lacrosse standpoint, it was a really entertaining game. It felt like about as close to a national championship type game as you can get in February. The announcers said that multiple times, and you guys on radio, kind of alluded to that as well. But it was good to see that. That's kind of like when I grew up, what I remembered Syracuse lacrosse being, that they were, top 5 team basically every single year, and they were competing with the best teams in the country and beating them and all that. And I also think this was important for kind of getting that Maryland monkey off their back going into the NCAA tournament, because if you get to championship weekend and you're playing for a national championship, Maryland's one of those teams that you could have to play either in a semifinal or in a final. And if you go into that having lost 9 in a row against them, I think that would make that an even more of a daunting task and put even more pressure on you. So I think that was important. As far as the women's team goes, I mean, they're exciting to watch. I've said it on your program before, 21-5. They're a really good team. I know they don't have that like marquee signature top 10 type of a win, but they've still beaten a bunch of good teams. And they got another test coming up next Sunday at NC State, which will be one of their more difficult games on their schedule. But they're really good. It's fun to watch them. And I just love how energetic they play on almost every possession and how physical they are, and just dominate the boards and block shots and controlling the paint. They're just they embody Felicia Leggett-Jack in every sense.
All right, Mike, great insight as always. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy your week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike McAllister joining us as he does every Monday at 12:30. And with that, we'll hit a timeout. Market's closed today because of the holiday. So we'll wrap up hour number 1 next, and then phone lines open the rest of the way. 315-437-7644. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Be sure to tune into...
I don't remember saying, do you see the comment that we said, someone said, me and you said that Cayenne should be playing more minutes than Kings, and now we're flipping. I don't think I ever said that in my life. Q's in the house, yeah. Yeah. Back in December, both Steve and Tim were talking about how Anthony could be getting more minutes than Kings, and now because of Kings' play, the offense should have been going through him the whole time. I think I've been more anti-Cayenne than most of the fan base, so I really find that hard to believe. Here we go with the gotta hire the coach right now. Jerome Tang gets fired. And like, Govendo, why do you think they're going to be behind on the portal? It was you that said that, right? We're going to be late to the game with recruiting and transfers in the portal. Why do you think that? In other words, why is their situation any different from another team that is like Will Wade last year? Was he behind on the portal? Miami seems to be doing pretty well the first year coach. Villanova, I mean, they didn't fire the coach on Valentine's Day weekend. Yeah, the hire, and also they're already looking at candidates, I'm sure, guys. Like, the idea that Kansas State now gets to be ahead of the pack, I mean, any good coach, you think Josh Schertz is just like jumping at the first chance he gets and that he's going to go to Kansas State now because they're first? His agent is going to tell him to create a bidding war. He's the hottest name out there. So any coach that you guys really want, they're not going to go to Kansas State immediately before Syracuse opens. That's just not going to happen. Yeah, it seems pretty clear Hodgson already is interested in the Syracuse job. But so if he's interested, I mean, there's some back channeling I'm sure that's going on. I am going to do drive time, yep. Pre and post will be Kyle because I have the Coach Jack show tonight, which everyone should listen to, 7 to 8 p.m. Like, why are you fearful that the portal we're going to be behind on? I don't get that. Get some words of encouragement from Michael.
What?
Michael in Manlius is on the phone.
Oh, okay.
He's always I'm sure he's going to say, like, why not us? Or, you know.
All right.
Some confusing positive message. What makes you think they have no clue what they're doing, Gavendo? I don't understand the idea that there's a fear in the chat that they're going to be behind on the portal. Like, all these coaches that succeeded in the first year that everyone's comparing Syracuse to go do this. It's not like they fired their coach in the middle of the season.
Right. And Alex Klein's still doing his job. Like,
yeah.
The portal doesn't open until after the tournament anyway.
Right. That's why John Wildhack said, this isn't Dino. Like, I don't need to fire him now.
And they fired the dude at Kansas State because they're trying to get out of paying his his buyout. So, they said they fired him with cause, but
7 and 100.1. Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
It's a good one, Steve. Under the Bridge. Red Hot Chili Peppers are artist of the day. No stock market today. It's not open. So no chat with Lee Baldwin, but they always have all the diamonds, none of the dogs, of course. So LeeBaldwin.com if you want to learn more. We'll get the update tomorrow on the stock market. Should we hit the phone lines? Let's see what Michael in Manlius has for us. What's up, Michael?
Hey, what's up, Tim? What's up, Steve? How you both doing?
We're doing all right. How about
doing
you?
Well.
Pretty good. All right, so my rendition goes like this. I don't ever want to feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. All right.
Pretty good.
That's not my question. Okay, so everybody I keep talking that says that SU got lucky in the Cal and SMU games, I have a different idea I want to share with you guys. Okay, so sometimes when things get cooled down, put in the freezer for a long time, they reach superconductivity, and so I basically think SU hit rock bottom, and they bounced back. Kind of like, I got one more saying, okay, bear with me. When gravity collapses inwards, it can meet a point where nothing more can collapse, and that's a supernova. SU pernova. So I'm predicting an SU win tonight, guys.
Wow. All right, you heard it here first.
Let Michael cook.
I know, Michael predicting the SU win. Thank you, Michael, for checking in and for the rendition.
Yes, better singing than Paulie, I would say.
I think so. That's not hard to do, but I would agree with that. All right, so a quick segment here so we can get back on time. As Tim mentioned, no update on the market because this is a holiday. We'll take our time out here. We'll drive into our second hour next, brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. Keep it here. You're listening to Orange Nation on ESPN Radio.
Ever feel like
I don't know. Do they have any really spicy ones? Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I don't know. I don't know their catalog all that well. So
you haven't recognized these?
Oh,
so
no.
far?
Okay. No, but I can't, like, off the top of my head be like.
Yeah. Hodgson is an interesting one because, I mean, he's young and I don't know if he's quite proven, and he just seems like a polarizing personality for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw SI Sports Illustrated had an article, top 10 candidates for the Kansas State job. Do you see the blurb on Hodgson? They said it's a dirty little secret in industry circles that Hodgson is already courting for the SU job, or that's his dream job, basically. But they brought up his name as like, well, if he doesn't go to Syracuse, maybe Kansas State could look at him. Hodgson's a year away from being a year away. Oh, sorry. Open secret. Thank you, LA Orange. Yeah, apparently we were advocating for a lot of Cayenne minutes, Steve.
I don't remember this. I don't feel like I've been high on Cayenne at all, but I can't always remember everything I say in this show for 2 hours every day for weeks upon weeks, but I don't remember ever advocating for more Cayenne. Is it why? Is more than one person saying that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just one guy.
Yeah.
See if I can find it. Cuse in the House, I think it was. Said back in December, both Steve and Tim were talking about how Anthony could be getting more minutes than Kings, and now because of Kings' play, the offense should have been going through him the whole time. Earlier in the year, he was having trouble creating his own shot and still having trouble creating his own three-point shot, so he has to drive. If he misses that shot, people are going to ask why they didn't go to Freeman. I do think, like, Red looks like a genius because Kings made the play. Exactly. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
If they had drawn up the... Oh, no.
How long do I have?
About a minute. I agree that, I think it's silly to say, oh, Red has completely shifted his playbook, and that's why the offense is doing better. I think Nate King's made the play, and when you compare it to the Hofstra game, I mean, Cayenne did kind of make a play. He just didn't get the call, but the players didn't make a play in that scenario. Like, when the ball went to Kings at the top of the key with 7 seconds left, I'm sure a lot of you were like, oh, no, what's happening? And then it looked like a great play. Will Steve make it back?
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Hot Chili Peppers are artist of the day as we welcome you back on Orange Nation. Paulie on his way to Cameron Indoor Stadium tonight. Lucky him. He is driving there right now. Tim Leonard filling in for Paulie with Stephen Fonte. Are you a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, Steve? Or
can't say that I am. I mean, I don't mind them, and I've known all the songs you've played, but I wouldn't consider myself a fan per se. How about you?
I guess I'm a fan. I've enjoyed all of these songs, and I would listen to them. They would maybe pop up on my Spotify if I hit shuffle. Would you work out to Red Hot Chili Peppers, I guess? Is this upbeat enough for you?
I mean, it's upbeat. I don't know. It's not really my thing, but it's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you're more hip hop. It seems like. Yeah,
I am. Yeah, but nothing wrong with it. Like it's a nice change of pace, and I've known all the songs, but you would not find Red Hot Chili Peppers on my Spotify. For the record. Let's drive into our second hour, brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. Let's go back to the phone line. Scooter in Janesville kicking us off here in the second hour. Scooter, what's up?
Steve, Timmy, how you guys doing?
Doing well, Scoot. How are you?
Good. I understand, Paulie, which some people think he's like the wet blanket of the show, so that sounds good to me. You keep up the good work over there, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. When you guys talk about the rankings and stuff, and we're going to go up and down, you got to look at the whole nation. I mean, for example, Wisconsin will just beat Illinois on the road and beat Cleveland, Michigan State. The Big Ten, everybody is even playing like they get a previous caller that we're going to go up a couple points when we play Duke, but overall, the Big Ten and the Big 12, every time you play somebody, Iowa State, for example, is playing Houston. Well, one of them's going to both of them are probably going to go up because one's 3 and one's 5. I'm shocked. Lenardi's got 3 from the West Coast going in, with Santa Clara is the third one. So every time they played Gonzaga, which they played twice, I assume they went up even though they lost. So you got to look at the other conferences. Every time you play somebody in the Big Ten and the Big 12, and you're probably going to go up in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with any of what you said there, Scooter. No doubt about it. As always, we appreciate you checking in. Good stuff from Scooter, kicking us off here. I mean, the net rankings they don't make a ton of sense all the time, Tim, and I hope that it continues to grow and evolve, and because it does seem like schools are able to manipulate the numbers right now to in their favor, especially in the early part of the season.
Yeah, and if you're a head coach right now, I think this is the first year Syracuse has really leaned into trying to use the net rankings to their advantage, and we saw them play very hard in the second half against Binghamton and whoever else they played, Delaware State or whatever it was early on in the season, and they won those games handedly. And I think it's good that they did that. I think they were maybe like a year or two behind. The ACC as a whole has been a year or two behind, and it's just nice for Syracuse, whether it's Adrian Autry next year as the head coach or someone different. The ACC is trending back up, and the ACC is probably going to bring 8 teams to the tournament this year, and I think Duke is a true national title contender.
No doubt. Yeah.
They might be my pick right now to win it all from what I've seen. So it's good for Syracuse that the league is healthy. Unfortunately, it's led to Syracuse maybe not winning as many games as we thought this year, or they're struggling against some of the top teams in the league, but it's good that the league is trending up and they're kind of leaning into the net ranking game a little bit.
Yes, definitely good to see. Let's go to line 2. John in Liverpool up next. John, how are you?
Yeah, hey, Steve. I got an NIL question. I heard Matt Park was on a couple days ago, and he said that everybody has a ceiling of $20 million to divvy up in their athletic department and for NIL,
for rev share.
Syracuse or Ohio State.
So that's revenue sharing. That's separate from NIL. You first can use your revenue sharing. You can go to the maximum, which is $20.5 million, to divvy up
for all sports.
And then you use what you want for each sport there, and then you say, all right, let's go to the third party NIL and see if we can add more to our budget.
NIL is private donors. Like if you have a Mark Cuban, I guess, donated a tremendous amount of money for Indiana, and then they go on and they win it all.
Yes.
So Is that and that's an unlimited, right? If you've got Warren Buffett or something, it's
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, John. It's confusing. I can understand why if you're not doing this job or you're not like living it, that it's confusing. But when we say NIL, we probably should say overall budget. When we're talking about $8 million, $10 million as the roster budget, it's not NIL, it's rev share plus NIL.
Right, because of the $20 million, let's say just for easy numbers, let's say that basketball is getting, $4 million of that. Or I mean, do you think that's about right?
Yeah, probably.
Probably about $4 million of the rev share, and then you got to make up the difference in NIL if you're going to compete as a upper tier ACC squad. You want to get to close to $9-10 million, and so you got to make up the difference outside of the rev share. Thank you for the call. Appreciate you checking in, John. Dave in Syracuse up next. Dave, how are you?
Hey, good guys. Hey, listen, my comment is from a previous caller that called, and this narrative that's gone on during the year about Adrian Autry's substitution patterns and how he doesn't ride the hot guy, how he's finally learned to keep a hot guy in the game, and just how easy it is for us to coach from where we're sitting, where you guys are sitting after a game's over. You know who he didn't take out, who was not having a good game Saturday, was Tyler Betsy. I think he missed his first 5 shots.
Good point.
And Adrian stayed with him. He ends up, I want to say, he was as important winning that game as Nate Kings was. And yet Kings and Anthony are getting all the pup. Betsy made 3 huge shots and made probably the 2 biggest defensive plays to keep us in that game, to give us a chance to win. So really my call is just how easy it is for us to coach from where we're sitting on our couch. And I think Adrian's taken way too much criticism on substitutions and this narrative that he doesn't stay with a hot guy. Nobody has a crystal ball about how a guy's going to continue to play. So that was it ends up being a brilliant move to keep him in the game. The other quick comment I want to make, guys, Steve, you guys were talking the other day about what guys you'd want back from the team.
Yeah.
And one guy you didn't mention was Nate George.
Yeah.
And to me, I know he's made some bad errors this year, some mistakes. And I love what Mike McAllister said about the state of the game now, about how you just don't have a lot of time to have chemistry with your teammates when you're only just meeting them for the first few months. I think Nate George is a super talent. I really love his game, and I think he has improved. I think the chemistry's gotten better as time goes on. I would love to have him back. He might be one of the first few guys I'd want back. And that's all I want to say, guys. Go ahead and comment.
All right. Appreciate you checking in, Dave. I would say this. It's got to be at the right price, right? I mean, because you need to be able to put together the kind of roster that you want to put together. And am I opposed to having him back? Not necessarily, but given the numbers that you hear being thrown around with what he's making this year, is he willing to take a pay cut? Are you able to field the team around him that you want? It's got to be for me. It's got to be. It's got to be at the right price.
Put it this way, I think it's publicly reported. There was an article from the Oregonian that Nate Kings is making $750,000 to play for Syracuse. If Nate Kings is making that next year, that's a great add to this team, right? Yeah. And that's something you have to factor into all of this when you're considering who do you want back. You got to spend the money wisely. You got to make sure you maximize what your budget is. So Nate King's at $750,000 versus we're assuming Nathan George is making more than that. I definitely want Nate Kings ahead of Nathan George in the priority rankings. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Nate Kings is definitely a better player in each and every game than Nathan George. So obviously Nathan George will be a lot better next year, and let's see how he finishes this season because he is making some strides, and he's been known as a player that gets better as the season progresses. So I'm not ruling it out, but I do think that if they brought him back and he struggled again next year, it would be easy to throw egg on the face of everyone involved that made that decision to bring him back.
For me, he turns the ball over too much, and he's getting better. You want to say he's getting better, but you look at the last 3 games. Yes, he only had 2 turnovers against SMU, but he had 5 against Cal and Virginia. Now, I know the Cal game went into double overtime, and he had 10 assists. If you're going to give him credit for the 10 assists and doing it in extra time, and again, guys made shots in that game, which helped, you have to take into account the turnovers as well. He turns it over too much. He's got to get better in that area. He's had some games where he's been good with that, and then he's had others. And, it's not a coincidence that in the wins, he is generally, like the Notre Dame game, he had 0 turnovers and 10 assists. In the SMU game, 2 turnovers, 6 assists. That was great. They won the game. He turns the ball over too much, and so if you can get him at the right price, and if he continues to get better, great. But I don't want I don't want SU to overspend on him. You know what I'm saying? Because you do have to. It's kind of like you're dealing with a salary cap, and you got to make sure everybody you could field the team you want to, given the resources you have.
If he went on the open market this year, I don't know if he's going to be making as much money and playing for a team that is at the level of Syracuse.
Correct.
So consider that as well.
I would
when
agree
you're
with that.
thinking about it.
Mark in New York City's up next. Mark, what's going on?
Hey guys, how you doing? Tim, first of all, I think you're doing a great job filling in for Paulie.
Getting all kinds of compliments, Steve. This is great. Really good for my
you're
ego.
Doing a great job, Tim.
Comparing you to Paulie. So
right.
I'm glad that you're winning out in that battle.
I think it's more a diss on Paulie.
Very, very cool Paulie send down to Cameron Indoor. Tim, I think you're a North Carolina guy, but Steve or Tim, if you haven't had the chance to watch or catch a Syracuse game at Cameron Indoor, it's a really, really bucket list item. It's really an electric atmosphere.
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Cameron Indoor?
I have been, and it is great. Yeah, I'm sure you've been, Steve.
I've been a few times. Yeah, it is. It's a great atmosphere. It's the size of like my high school gym, but other than that, it's a great place to watch a game.
Yeah, no, it's pretty electric. This wasn't even going to be my call, but I was there for the first Syracuse at Duke game when CJ Fair was called for that charge. And kind of my claim to fame is there's a picture of CJ Fair with that charge on Rodney Hood, and you kind of see one Syracuse fan with his hand over his head, being like, "How did they just call that a charge?" And that's me back there,
was that right?
Wearing an orange jersey right in the Cameron Crazies. But my call is, how much do you think we're not talking enough about that we don't have one single recruit coming in next year? I think we're one of the only ACC teams that don't have a recruit. And if Adrian Autry is going to be fighting for his job, I mean, how is he, talking to this new athletic director? One of his arguments should be, look at the recruiting class I'm bringing in, and he can't even point his finger to that. Are we not talking about enough? We don't have one single recruit coming in next year. Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and we appreciate checking in, Mark. We did bring it up when we had Mike McAllister on last hour, and we talked about that a little bit. I think it's just a byproduct of the uncertainty right now with the coaching staff. It's tough for a guy, especially a high-level guy, to commit to a program that he doesn't know who's going to be coaching him next year. So, I think it's a tough spot that, Red is obviously in, that he's put himself in, right? I mean, it's not like, woe is me. Like, he's put himself in this position. But I think that's the reason that you're not seeing guys committing to Syracuse at the moment is that, are you going to be there? Well, Red can't guarantee that he's going to be here. Now, this day and age, you could certainly fill a roster with transfer portal guys, and there is a place for high school guys. But, keep in mind, too, you've got several guys that have not played this year. Sitting on the bench that essentially would be freshmen next year, like a Luke, Fennell or, Aaron Womack. They got the big guy Sheffing. Yeah. Guys that have not played at all if they decide to stick it out. That's kind of your freshman class. So I guess that's a long answer to say once we have some clarity about what's happening next year, I think that problem will take care of itself. But as of right now, it does not surprise me that kids aren't committing to the program.
Yeah, times have changed. I don't think they went into this cycle thinking they needed to add 3 or 4 players, and they have 0 right now. I think maybe they were trying to add 1 or 2. They were in on Jordan Smith, who is the number 3 player in the class. He just decided he's going to Arkansas, and it seems like Brendan Strawn had a very good relationship with him. It seems like they were really in that race, but unfortunately, you're probably right about the situation. And if you're Jordan Smith right now and you're the number 3 player in the country, it's sort of unrealistic to think he's going to pick Syracuse knowing that he has so much uncertainty over who is going to be his head coach. So I'm not too worried about it. I think if they do move on from Red, it's going to be a transfer portal heavy class. And I think they can retain a lot of these guys that are on the roster right now. And we've talked about Nate Kings. Maybe he gets an extra year. And I mean, we just spent time talking about Nathan George. A lot of these guys can come back. Right. So they should be in a fine spot if they even just bring in one high school guy.
And keep in mind, too, that you're going to be bringing in a coach, if you make a change, you're going to be bringing in a coach from another program that may want to bring guys with him. Like, look at what happened at Louisville, for instance. You know, he brought, 3 or 4 guys with him, and, you know, they made impacts right away. So, and you also, too, you don't want to necessarily go after a high school kid just for the sake of it. You want him to be the right fit, right? You want it to be a high-level player, and so, you know, you want to be selective. And I think so it's a combination of SU's being selective, but also those high-level guys aren't going to pick you right now, and you just have to understand that. So I'm with Tim. I'm not super worried about it. I think, you know, that it's on the list of things to be concerned about if you're an SU fan, but I don't think it's at the top of the list. Like, they'll get to that, and I think it'll sort itself out. You want to take a break here, Tim? Then we'll try to stay on time.
We got Pat on the other side. Pat only calls in when Paulie's not here, I feel like.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think
Pat,
that's
hang
true.
on. We'll give you the full... The runway you want when we come back.
We'll take a break here. We'll get to more of your phone calls next on ESPN Radio. Philly, I think Nate Kings has a better case for an extra year than William Kyle does, because Kyle's played 4 years. Kings played JUCO, and he had an injury that he had to deal with, whereas Kyle has just played 4 years. Now, they might give everybody a 5th year, as you know, so, you know, if that happens before next year, then he would have that 5th year he could use, but I think Kings would have a case for a waiver. I don't know that Kyle would.
Yes, I will have a normal week, Phil. Drive time every weeknight this week. I mean, obviously, if you can get Donnie back, LA Orange, you jump at that chance, I'd say. I don't know. I would put Donnie in a different category than like JJ in terms of running it back. He's gotten a lot better this year. Maybe he's had some underwhelming games, but I think Donnie's probably going to test the waters, but who knows?
Yeah, Philly, I love Kyle. I love the way he plays. If you could keep him, you find a way to keep him. For sure.
Insurance, you can always count on us to be in your corner. This month, fall in love with your Nissan at Matthews Nissan of Clay, where we want you in the driver's seat when choosing your Nissan. That's why our knowledgeable salespeople are here to help guide you and answer all of your questions. This month, Lisa 2026 Nissan Rogue Platinum all-wheel drive, only $368 per month with $368 due at signing. Lease selling price $39,740. Or a 2026 Nissan Pathfinder SV all-wheel drive, only $456 per month with $456 due at signing. Lease selling price $41,710.
I don't know if I'd give him $3 million. It's hard to say without knowing the budget.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? Yeah. How much are we? How much are they working with under your scenario with $3 million? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but yes, I would give him a significant amount of money.
Yeah. That's probably what he'd garner from an SEC school.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, you might have to give him that.
Yeah, regardless of what you're working with. Yeah,
it's just crazy. So much money. It'd be a pretty big spike in the budget, I'd say.
The thing is now too, like about Donnie going or not. Like it used to be, even if you just get in the G League, you would go. But now he can make more money here than he could in the G League. Certainly, like way more money.
Now $3 million for Freeman. We're talking about Cam McKenzie.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
This is a banger in my eyes, Steve. Snow Heyo by Red Hot Chili Peppers. You like this one?
Sure.
You're bobbing a little?
Yeah. It's a good bump back.
Okay.
I like it.
Actually, the start to my drive time show is coming here. My intro song is Red Hot Chili Peppers, which I'm just realizing as I looked at our remaining two songs. So maybe I'm a bigger fan than I give myself credit for.
How about that?
I listen to it every day, basically.
All right. As promised, we're going back to the phone lines. Pat in Syracuse up next. Pat, what's going on?
Pat, do you have us? Oh, no. We might have lost Pat. Oh, there he is.
Maybe it's your guy. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh, we got you now.
Okay, cool. So I think it was Paulie was complaining the last time when he took a day off and then he came back. He said the bump back music wasn't. What was the deal with that? Because it sounds like you guys are jamming.
Yeah, I will say Paulie had a right to complain there. I usually forget about Artist of the Day or just kind of it slips my mind and then I'm like, all right, we'll just do the bumps. So today I actually have fulfilled the Artist of the Day, which Paulie will be proud of me.
Well, Paulie doesn't need an excuse to complain, but it sounds like he had one. So that's neither here nor there. So with the game tonight, let's go back to early in the year when things were looking better, but they started to take a turn for the worse. Tim, I talked to you and Steve about this way back in, let's see, I think it came down to the Iowa State game. After that game, you start to notice that when this offense is not going well, it starts to really go south. And then it comes down to one thing. It's the whole construction of our roster. When you have JJ, who's a way below average three-point shooter, and then Donnie Freeman is somebody who can take a three, but as many announcers have said, when he's taking threes, he's doing the opponent a lot of favors, and they're going to give him that. Why do you think they're giving him the three? Because he's not a great three-point shooter. Do you guys agree with that?
I think Donnie is a pretty ideal modern big. I mean, he's not a great three-point shooter. You're right. I think everything you just said is true, but I don't know if you can do much better from a spacing perspective in your 4 spot and get all the things that Donnie gives you from 2-point range as well.
I think because he's a threat, he can stretch the floor. But if you go back to what 4 or 5 announcers have all said, in their opinion, and I was listening to them and then watching it, and I agree with them, and that is that it's not spreading the floor as much as you'd want because they're letting him take it. Spreading the floor
I think
is
that's
when you
true,
can't
Pat,
leave the guy.
But I guess I wouldn't complain about Donnie being the issue from a spacing standpoint, because how much better are you going to do at your 4 spot than what is he shooting? 35%?
32.8. 33%.
And I agree with you. When I watch Donnie, I don't want him to be settling for threes either, but how much better are you going to do at the 4 spot?
Well, the problem is I would grade him slightly below average as an overall 3-point shooter from the 4 spot. There's a lot of 4s in college that are shooting the 3-point ball better than him. And when you have a 5 that can't even think about shooting the 3, and then you have a shooting guard who you don't want him shooting 3s.
That's where it comes into play more. Yeah, I think you're spot on with Kyle and Starling being an issue for spacing. I agree with that.
That's the whole premise of what I'm saying. I mean, I love Kyle as much as anybody. We would be nowhere without him. But that's part of the flaw in the construction of this team is some of the lineups that work offensively are with Kyle on the bench. And, you know, people say, what is he, crazy? Why would you want Kyle on the bench? Well, he can't play 40 minutes. So if he's going to play, I don't know, let's be generous. Let's say he plays 32 minutes. Okay, those 8 minutes that he's not on the floor, how can you still have a strength to your roster? That is throw another shooter out there. And that is why this last game was one of the few games that he finally got the lineup right. And this is the whole point to why Red is not working out. It takes him too long to figure this stuff out. I just think it's so obvious. You have to have, in this modern day of college basketball, you have to have shooters. And the way I look at this team, if you ran Donnie at the 5 for 5 or 10 minutes every game, no ifs, ands, or buts, and then not Suarez, who's a waste. Suarez is a complete waste. He, especially when you're offensively challenged, you cannot have him on the floor. And he's went to him too many times. Lately, you know, he's only been spot minutes here and there. He had a couple of games over the last 5 or 6 where he actually got in. And I thought he was going to be buried on the bench for the reason that we're discussing right now. What I'm saying today is the only way we can be competitive with Duke is kind of a double-edged sword because you have to have Kyle or you're going to get murdered. So if Kyle's in the game, do you maybe go a little less Donnie or JJ because you need that extra shooter, whether it's Anthony or Betsy or Kings at the 2, whatever you got to do. I think you have to have 3 shooters on the floor, and that third shooter cannot be Donnie, and it cannot be JJ, so it has to be George with either Kings as the primary shooter, and then Betsy or Anthony. Those lineups work so much better. It is almost not even up for discussion. Is there anything I'm saying that doesn't make sense? Because why didn't Red figure this out earlier?
I do wonder a little bit, Pat, and I agree with you, your premise about getting the guy, you know, the shooters on the floor and whatnot. I wonder if the big guy didn't foul out or get into foul trouble on Saturday, if they would have been able to play that lineup the whole second half. The big guy only played 6 minutes in the second half, and if he's out there for 15, I don't know if they would have been able to get away with it. Now they did. They were able.
We don't run the right stuff, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying on the other end, though. I'm saying defensively.
Eddie Lampkin last year.
Yeah.
We got crushed all year with Eddie Lampkin because other teams with better coaches devised plays to make us suffer to have Eddie Lampkin in the game when Eddie's on defense. We would have had to have done the same thing against SMU. That guy's not a good pick and roll defender at all.
I'm saying on the other end, Pat. I'm saying could they have gotten away with it at the other end?
No, I know, but what I'm saying is the only way that we would have got away with it is to suffer with him when we had to defend him, but to make him pay by running him the pick and roll, and we just don't do those things. Those are basic college Power 4 coaching strategies that are not with this program, and it's a shame because we have enough talent to make the tournament. If we make
you're saying they don't run the pick and roll enough, or what's the last point you're saying? They don't do enough.
What I'm saying to you is we don't identify the personnel that's hurting us on one end and make them pay by putting them in more ball screens. Do we run pick and roll? Yeah. Do we run it with the wrong guys a lot? Yeah, we do. We do run the pick and roll with the wrong guys a lot.
I have a hard time with that one. I've been agreeing with much of what you're saying, Pat, but I feel like when we talk to other coaches and stuff, they point out that Syracuse does a really good job at hunting matchups, and that's actually been a positive under Boeheim and under Autry is their ability to get switches and attack those, which is what they did on the final play with Nate Kings against Boopy Miller.
I mean, that is fair. And obviously the last play of the game goes back to kind of what we needed to see earlier in the year is less of JJ and Donnie.
Sure.
And I really think George or Kings is the way to go to start because there's just more options to play off of where everybody's not standing around. I guess that's my bigger point.
All right, Pat. Appreciate your call as always. Thanks for checking in. 315-437-7644 is the number. Shall we take a time out here? Let's do it. We'll get to today's business on the other side, even if that's more calls. Phone line's open if you want to get in some thoughts heading into this Duke game tonight. We've got today's business coming up on ESPN Radio.
This is Orange.
I think everything Pat said is fair. It's just the roster's flawed, and like whatever lineup you go to, you can point to flaws. I mean, I don't think you can critique and say, oh, they went from Lampkin, then they added Kyle. They don't have enough shooting at the 5. Like, Kyle gives you so much of what they were lacking, and I don't know what Kyle is making, but you're not going to get a perfect 5 with the money they spent on Kyle.
I was just going to say there's not a perfect fit. Yeah.
Right.
Or perfect fix to everything.
I think it goes back to like whatever lineup you throw out there, then you can pick at. I mean, everyone's saying he should ride the hot hand more. There's plenty of people that have called in and said the guys are too tired at the end of the game. Is that why they're losing these games in the second half? And he needs to sub more. And so I don't know. It's just you can always play at the end of the game revisionist history on what you should do. But I think overall, like, they should have more shooters out there, and I think they've done a better job of that as the season has gone on. They've gone to more of Betsy and gone to more of Kings at the 2 and stuff like that. They have played some Donnie at the 5. I don't think that less minutes for Kyle is the answer, though. I think he just is such a positive on the defensive end, and he does so much for you that you need. JB did always say that, and callers always said he was wrong.
Do you have something for today's business, or do I make it about like lacrosse?
David's gonna pop in because he's a Duke fan, and give us the breakdown on Duke, I guess, a little bit, and then.
Gotcha.
If you want to talk, I mean, I put down Jerome Tang. We could talk about that. We really haven't talked lacrosse or women's basketball, which I could talk on my show plenty, but. David will be coming. He might come in like after we start the segment, I'm guessing, because he's going to do everything out there today. Sweet. Yeah, who does Noah Lobdell want to be the next coach? Noah Lobdell's out for the game. He's on the injury report. Soiree was not on the injury report, actually, after he was out last game. I agree with that. I don't think they really need to play Soiree any minutes. I think 8 minutes of him isn't going to change much.
Oh, man. Tired.
Yeah, me too.
I woke up last night at 3:45, and I could not fall back asleep.
No, it's the worst.
is brought to you by William Mattar, ESPN Radio 97.7 and 100.1. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers as we welcome you back to Orange Nation. Artist of the day today, Tim filling in for Paulie, Steve alongside, and I've got two Duke fans next to me now, apparently.
Stop.
David is in here.
Not a Duke fan.
David is truly a Duke fan. He's actually rocking the Duke shirt.
Die hard since 2010. No bandwagon over here.
Exactly. But you're born in Syracuse, grew up in Syracuse.
Raised,
and
how old were you in 2010?
I was 9 years old.
So there's a little bandwagon then. A little bit, right?
A little bit,
I mean,
maybe.
They were already really, really good.
They won the championship that year. I'll give you that.
Why'd you pick them? Why are they?
It's actually pretty ironic. The first game I ever watched was Duke UNC in 2010. Me and my dad are watching the game. I'm like, Dad, which team's closer to Syracuse? I want to root for that team. He's like, David, they're pretty much a mile apart from each other. So I just watched the game. Duke blew out UNC. Kyle Singler is the player I first fell in love with. They had John Shire on that team. And I just watched every game since then.
Wow.
Super ironic how that went down, though. Like, which team's closer? And then, so my dad took me to Cuse games growing up. I rooted for them when they had Andy Routins, Hakeem Warwick, Onawaku, all those guys, but turned out this way.
Wow. And you're going to be pulling hard for Duke tonight, it sounds like, yeah.
It is time for today's business, brought to you by Superior Plus Propane. So what should we expect to see from this Blue Devils team tonight? I mean, we've watched them, but it sounds like you watch them game in and game out. I said to Tim before the show, I said, do they have a weakness? And we both had a tough time coming up with a weakness. So we'll ask you, does this team have a weakness? If so, what is it?
I would say for Syracuse to make this a game, you got to get the bigs in foul trouble. Patrick Gungba missed one game last week, our starting center. He returned against Clemson. He picked up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes of the game, sat the whole first half after that. He comes back in the second half, picks up another foul, but he played careful beyond that point. In the UNC game, we saw Boozer get in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Gungba fouled out in only 16 minutes. Malik Brown had foul trouble as well. Only 3 front court players really are Boozer, Gungba, Malik Brown. So if we get into foul trouble, at that point, it could be a closer game than we expect, I would say.
It's a good way to keep Boozer in check.
Yeah, right.
Keep him on the bench.
Probably your only hope.
That's probably your only hope, yes.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is so good, David. Just looking at the numbers, they're second on KenPom defensively, and they have held the last 9 games. They've held 7 of the last 9 opponents under 60 points. 57 points allowed per game in the last 9. I mean, Clemson, they just beat by 13, held them to 54 points. Pittsburgh, 54 points. So, to me, if Syracuse gets to 60, that's almost an accomplishment tonight. And I am bracing myself for all the fans then saying it's stagnant ISO ball offense, but that's probably how everyone feels when they come out of a game against Duke.
It's the length, really.
Yeah.
I saw John Shire's team last year building around Cooper Flagg. He wants length at every position, 6'5" or taller. He has the same formula this year.
Yeah,
very
Malik
similar
Brown.
roster construction, and it's working out so far.
Yeah, and you said they changed their ball screen coverage a little bit.
Early on conference play, switching everything. You saw against like Florida State, SMU, they could not get a stop. The Texas Tech loss as well. When Malik Brown comes in, he will blitz the ball screen and just sprint back.
Yeah.
Same thing with Gungba. We'll do some drop coverage. Ever since he made that adjustment, the defense has been pretty stellar, I would say.
You know, you did some of the number crunching, Tim, before we came on the air. Syracuse has played 7 opponents this year, ranked in the top 35 in the country in KenPom defense. 1-6 in those games. Syracuse is 1-6 with averaging 65 points per game. That's not going to be enough tonight, right? 65 is not going to be enough. You got to get to at least, you would think, probably at least 75 to win this game, you would think. So they're going to have to find ways to score against this defense, which, as we pointed out, is not going to be easy to do.
I think foul trouble, David's right. That's a big key. They've got to find a way. I mean, they hit 11 threes in the last game. That tied their season high, and obviously some of that was the zone that SMU was throwing at them. They've got to find a way to knock down threes. It feels like they have to shoot out of character and shoot very well from three-point range to be in this game. So is that Nate King's having like a Cole Swider at UNC type of game where, you know, he's just making it from everywhere? You probably need someone like that to play so out of character to the point where you're punching above your weight. And I say that knowing that, yeah, Syracuse has played better of late, and I'm not completely ruling it out that this could be a game late in the second half, but Duke has just played a lot of good teams in ACC play and made them look really bad. I mean, they beat Louisville I know they played Louisville twice and beat them
First time they were down 12 in the first half, took over in the second half. Second time around, dominant performance.
Yeah, Louisville scored 52 points against them. So, I mean, what does that say for Syracuse? Obviously, I think Syracuse can get to 65, 70 if they play the way that we know they can, but it would be punching above their weight to get past 60 points maybe against this defense tonight.
And honestly, I mean, Duke should be undefeated right now. You look at their two losses, Texas Tech and North Carolina. They gave up sizable leads in both of them at the end of that game. Texas Tech made a mad rally late to steal it. And even the UNC game, Duke seemed to be in control, and UNC just kept hanging around, and they were able to kind of steal it at the end of that one. So, yeah, I mean, they're as good as you're going to see this year. And you go out and, as you said, Tim, at the top of the show, you play with no pressure, and you see what you can do. You try to play loose and try to execute the game plan. You got to try to get them in foul trouble. You have to hope that Duke helps you out a little bit, and we'll see where the dust settles at the end of this one.
I'll talk a lot about men's lacrosse and women's basketball on my show. I feel bad that we didn't get to that a little bit more today. One thing to bring up in terms of national college basketball, first firing so far of the cycle, Jerome Tang, the head coach of Kansas State, fired. They're going to try and fire him for cause. He has basically a $19 million buyout that they're trying to get out of by saying that he was criticizing players, or there's something in his contract to the effect of you can't embarrass players. And he had a public post-game press conference that went viral because he said his team's been an embarrassment to wear the jersey and stuff like that. Seems like it's going to be hard for them to truly get out of the entire buyout. Maybe the situation is they end up having to pay like $8 million instead of $19 million. But, you know, everyone in our chat was saying, oh, Syracuse is going to be behind in the portal now. Jerome Tang is going to get interviewed, or Kansas State's going to interview all these coaches before Syracuse. I would not worry about that at all. There's so many jobs right now that you think about. Bobby Hurley at Arizona State, Steve, we've talked about, he's already said basically that he knows he's not coming back. Arizona State hasn't fired him yet because that's not what you do in college basketball, really. And the only time you see the Valentine's Day firing like this is when it's for cause. So they're trying to fire someone for cause.
That's the whole purpose, right? They're trying to get out of that buyout. It's $18.7 million. What they'll probably end up doing is settling on a number that's not $18.7 million. They're trying to get, and that's why they do it now, right? Because this just happened with the comments. So I think they have a better shot at making this happen if they do it now as opposed to waiting till the end of the year. In his contract, it states that he shall not engage in any behavior, actions, or activities that subjects the coach, Kansas State Athletics, or the university to public embarrassment or ridicule or scandal. So I guess they look at those comments as bringing embarrassment unnecessarily upon the school. Seems like a stretch, but it also seems like a strategic move to try to get out of paying $18.7 million. So we'll see what the settlement ends up being. You know, it's probably not going to be released. I mean, maybe it will be, but that's the whole idea with this. That's why they did it. And to your point, Tim, you don't see it at other schools because there's really not there's no reason to do. There's really no benefit to doing it this early. In Kansas State's case, they're trying to get out of paying a buyout.
Yeah, and if you think Josh Schertz is your top name,
he's still going to be there.
He's going to be there. If Josh Schertz has a decent agent, he understands he is the hottest name out there, and he's going to wait for a bidding war to happen. And that's just the reality of it. It's not like Josh Schertz is going to be hired by Kansas State, and we're not even going to get a chance to interview him at Syracuse. That's crazy to think that.
Yeah, right. And again, the portal doesn't open until after the Final Four. all the guys that you want are going to be tied up into middle to late March anyway. So there's no need to do it now. And then if they were to make a move now, who do you hand it over to? And is that right for the players, the current players? Is that the right thing to do? So there's a lot that they got to take into account. And as we've talked about, the buyout generally goes down after a certain date. It's usually like mid-March. So if you stick with him through mid-March, then you end up, paying less of a buyout if you go that direction. Who do we got? Eric up next.
Yeah.
Eric at Syracuse is up next. Eric, what's going on?
Hey, just wanted to thanks for taking the call. Just wanted to bring up two things. One, watching Donnie Freeman get the ball inside and then dribble it out to the 3-point line and then do essentially nothing has been driving me crazy. I think he's an inside player. He can make the three, but stepping out to the three and then dribbling into nowhere and then sometimes struggling in the double team, I think his play is inside. When he gets the ball in the post, he needs to go up stronger, maybe kick it out. But dribbling out to the three, he's been doing that a lot. He might feel more comfortable, but I think his game needs to be more inside. And then was just wondering what you think if Syracuse has any matchup advantages tonight. People are saying it might be close because they're on a 2-game win streak. I just don't see any matchups that they can exploit. Would like to know your thoughts.
Yeah,
thanks.
I mean, it's a great question. They're hard to find right in this game.
Hard to find for anyone, not just
hard
Syracuse.
to find for anyone.
Yeah.
And that's why Duke is as good as they are. And again, they've lost twice. And both were kind of fluky losses. Like they let leads slip away at the end of both those games against Texas Tech and North Carolina. They are probably, I haven't looked at the odds. They're probably the odds-on favorite right now to win the national title. I would assume them or Michigan. Arizona just lost.
Yeah.
To that same Texas Tech team, by the way. Texas Tech has played some interesting games. Same type of thing against Arizona. Like the game seemed over, and then Texas Tech just keeps making shots and keeps coming at you, and they stole that one in overtime. But yeah, I think you're hard pressed to find a matchup advantage. There might be some matchups they like better than others. I don't know if they have, Syracuse truly has any advantages going into this game tonight.
I mean, you brought up the point. Maybe they drop into zone and hope that Duke has an off shooting game.
We saw that a few years ago where it worked, where Duke was dreadful from 3-point range and it kept Syracuse in it. Something like that might have to be your strategy. And obviously, Adrian Autry was on the staff for that game, so that don't be surprised if they do that.
Yeah.
If they just almost like daring Duke to shoot threes and then say, all right, well, if we're going to lose, it's going to be because you guys make shots.
And I will give Coach Autry credit. I remember maybe a couple weeks ago he was on Orange Nation, and he said, we will get better rebounding in the zone now that we're focusing on zone more. And they have gotten a little bit better. It still is a huge concern, and that's going to be the case for any team that goes zone probably. But it has been a little bit better to the point where I feel better about them in zone defense in the last 2-3 games.
It's a lengthy to-do list. They have to hope Duke misses shots.
Yeah.
They have to rebound well to end those possessions and not give Duke a lot of second chance points. They got to take care of the ball. They have to shoot well themselves. I mean, it's a long list, but if you're going to beat a top 5 opponent on the road, you're going to have to, a lot's going to have to go your way. So if they can check all of those boxes, this thing might be interesting. Duke is very good at making you play their game and not the other way around.
Yeah, they checked a lot of those boxes against Houston, and they were right there without Donnie. But, I mean, this is truly on the road. It's at Cameron, and I think Duke's better than Houston.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I think Duke's the best team they've played so far this year. All right, we'll take our final timeout. We'll wrap things up next on ESPN Radio.
The St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yeah, Super Cat, I'm just jumping in on this conversation right now. I do think injuries have affected JJ's shot. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah. Billy, you're very good at pointing out the stuff that you were right about. Should we point out? It seems like the chat only wants to point out the stuff that we're wrong about, so maybe we should do that to you. I'm only joking. I mean, I think it's all fair game to say that some of the stuff they're doing, they could have come to that conclusion a little bit earlier. But There's no part of me in the last 3 games that wants JJ running the point, and that was kind of your big hill you were dying on at the start of the year. Tom Thibodeau to the Q's. What do you think of that one, Steve? T-Takes throwing his name out.
Outside the box.
Yeah. Northeast ties, he says. Would he want to work in college? That's the question. I don't know.
Oh.
SG Lax is number 1. They're more than relevant.
Are you able to do a little quick Orange Nation overtime?
Yeah. We'll have Mike, right?
Yeah.
You want
I think, honestly, we went so long with Mike, we probably could just get away with doing like 2 or 3 minutes on both sides of it.
Cool.
Thanks for pulling double duty today.
Yeah, no problem. Man, I need some food. Yeah, I think I've made the point too that like when George has been struggling, they probably could have gone to more JJ at the 1, but I guess I'm saying like the numbers support a lot of stuff, but it's not like if you're just going off the numbers, you're not going to be 1,000% right, you know? And George has been playing better lately. Still has been turning it over, though.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
It's like it's the start of my show, Steve. This is the intro to my show. Can't Stop ends the Red Hot Chili Peppers Artist of the Day. Gotta wait for the good part here, Steve. Hang on.
Let it cook.
This is right when I go on the air. You know because you listen, I'm sure, every day. It's a good radio bump back song.
It is a great radio bump back. So when you hear this, even like right now, we're ending our show, but do you get that shot of adrenaline?
It's a little weird, yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the longest, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say it's kind of like the alarm clock in the morning. You're like, what's going on? Like that shouldn't be happening right now.
So I've said this before that for the longest time, after I graduated college and then I started covering a lot of high school games, like with the TV side of things, anytime I was at a game and they played the national anthem, I would get that shot of adrenaline because the last thing you do before you start a game as a player is it's the national anthem. And so it was almost like, was it like Pavlov's dogs?
Sure.
That, like you know, and as soon as I would hear the national anthem, my heart would start to beat faster. Like even just working a game, that happened for the longest time. So I would imagine that, every day if you hear the same show before you're about to start, you're going to get that shot of adrenaline. Anyway, you want to do some artists of the day options for us?
Yeah, so I think I've thrown a perfect game to this point. I only say that just because Paulie treats it as some like unbelievable accomplishment when he runs the board well and he does his job. And I throw a perfect game every day on my show in Paulie terms. But let's see, artist of the day for tomorrow. I was going to say I've thrown a perfect game, but I didn't pull this up in front of me until just now. Mumford and Sons, that's someone I do like. That's probably a little more me and David's generation. Yeah. Brad Paisley, Steve, do you like him? He's kind of country.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll throw him in there. We can make Paulie upset if you want to go country. Who else? Not a lot of great options here. Destiny's Child, we'll throw them in there. So why don't we vote on those three? Shaggy is also a pretty popular one. So we'll do Shaggy, Destiny's Child, Brad Paisley, Mumford and Sons.
I love I love country music. Brad Paisley isn't my favorite. I'm good with Brad Paisley. I'm going to go Destiny's Child, though, because Paulie's not going to approve of country anyway, and I do like Destiny's Child, so that's my vote.
Would Motley Crue change your mind?
No.
Okay.
No.
Motley Crue is also on here. I didn't see them at first. David, you got a vote?
Nothing sticks out to me, but I'll go Mumford.
Man, I kind of want to go Mumford, too.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. You guys can do it.
All right. You sure you don't want to take this opportunity to go country? Like, should we just give you a country artist
no, it's okay.
space and just make Paulie mad?
I feel like Mario will like Mumford.
Oh,
so.
What am I thinking? Paulie's not even back tomorrow.
That didn't occur to me until... No, that's fine.
Okay.
Go,
hopefully there's country artists tomorrow and we can stick it to Paulie.
All right. Yeah. That sounds good. That sounds good.
Mumford and Sons.
We got to go. Thanks for listening, everybody. For David, for Tim, I'm Steve. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. No Paulie again tomorrow. Myself and Mario Sacco. Enjoy the rest of your day.
This is Orange Nation.
Mike McAllister.
You guys going to record the overtime?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the McAllister segment is the only one.
Give you a thumbs up in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to run to the bathroom like Paulie.
Michael Antonio, I've had people tell me I look like Brad Paisley. My old boss at Channel 9, Jim Campagna, he used to tell me I look like Brad Paisley.